Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. It is promptly 12 noon Eastern Time here. We're going to go ahead and get started on our topic today, which is Accounting Managing Years event. Again, welcome to everybody. We're so glad you could join us today. So when we're going into accounting, we go up to Special Functions and Manage Years. There's a large menu here. About, I don't know, a month ago, maybe a little more, I did do another webinar event on setting up or opening a new accounting year. I'm going to go through that today, but probably not going to spend as much detailed time on that as I would otherwise. You can go out to the resource or the New Year Prep and Help page and watch that video on setting up a new accounting year, but I'm going to go through it quickly when that time comes. But there's an extensive list here of things that I think our folks are either unaware of or they overlook, or there's just a lot in the software. And so this list of manage years function, I think, frequently goes overlooked because of the complexity elsewhere in the software. All right, so first thing, Special Functions manage years to access this. This is where anything to do with managing years in accounting is dealt with or done. And the first one, of course, change to another existing accounting year, I think is fairly straightforward in that if you want to go back to another accounting year or forward, as the case may be, when the time comes, you would go to this change to another existing accounting year. I don't have 2024 set up yet, and if we click the down arrow, we do see all of the previous accounting years that we have in our data here with a start date, end date, closed and beginning balances, finalized boxes on there. Again, this is really informational, but it's where you would choose that. And notice 2023 is not in the list. And the reason why that is because we are in 2023. So right up here it says January through December 2023. Because we're in that year, it doesn't give us that option as an option to choose. And that would be true whatever year we were in. So if I were to go back to 2019 and click OK, my year changes. I go back up to Special Functions, Manage Years, change to another existing accounting year, and we notice that in the menu, 19 is not there because that is the year that I'm in. All right. So just be aware that's often we get a lot of support calls about that is, why am I not seeing the year I want to go to in my list under Manage Years when changing? And it's because, well, you're already in it. So that's often an eye-opener for folks. So to go back, I choose 23 and click OK. I'm now back into 2023. One of the things that I really like to stress about this is, folks, in order to run a report for any other accounting year, you do not need to change the year. Okay? That's a common misunderstanding. So if I go to Reports and Export Financial, say Treasurer's Report, I can choose an accounting year here of any other prior accounting year while remaining in 23 and run the Treasurer's Report or any of the reports for that matter while remaining in the current year. Okay? So that's really all I got to say about the change to another existing accounting year. Set up new accounting year. Maybe many of you have already done it, but if you haven't, get that new year open. There's no restrictions on this. You can work between two different accounting years as long as you need or want. Opening 2024 now will simply allow you to prepare, enter your budgets, rework your chart of accounts, rework subtotals, prepare for the new year without having to feel like you're way behind waiting for the end of the new year, end of the old year to actually arrive. So setting up the new year, it asks, would you like to set up a new accounting year? We click yes on that. It says, do you want to create the next accounting year, January 2024, or it will even allow you to create another earlier accounting year, in this case 2011, since my most recent year is 2012, or oldest year is 2012. Do I want to copy the chart of accounts from the current year and my budget amounts? We're definitely going to copy our chart of accounts, but if your books are bad or you think your chart of accounts is no good and you want to start over, you can choose Create Empty Chart of Accounts and set up an entirely brand new chart of accounts for the new year if you wish. I always remind folks, if you're copying the budget amounts is helpful and useful if, say, some of your accounts budget amounts don't change, 60% do and 40% don't, you saved yourself 40% work. So, if all of your budgets are changing, then maybe you don't, but maybe just checking the accounts is enough. Maybe the accounts that are selected are going to remain the same and the budget amounts change. So it may be beneficial just to copy the budget amounts anyway. So we're going to go ahead and click OK on that. So it's now setting up our year, and we now notice here in the upper right it says January through December 2024. Okay. I've now opened the new year. When I want to go back to 23, I go up to Special Functions, Manage Years, change to another existing accounting year. There's 23. I simply click OK. I'm now back in the current year. Folks, you can work between the two accounting years as long as you need or want. Okay? So just don't wait to open 24. You're not closing 23. You are simply opening the next accounting year. So go ahead and get working on that now. You'll thank yourself for it later. Okay. All right. Next step, manage years. View accounting year information. Now this is strictly informational. Okay. This shows us all the information we have about our various accounting years, 24 all the way back to 2012, 2012. So here it shows the start and end date, and if you're on a fiscal year, you had changed or been on fiscal years, it would show whatever years there were. Is the year closed, and who closed it? Beginning balances finalized and who they were finalized by. Now this is an important thing. I want to discuss this for just a minute. This is just, again, something that Church Windows checks because it does. The only time beginning balances are actually open and available to be able to finalize are when you set up and enter your chart of accounts for the very first time, or if you start over and set up a brand new chart of accounts. Otherwise, the assumption is that we're bringing forward the balances from the end of the prior year, therefore they're not open and they are automatically finalized. And that's basically what this is telling us, okay, is we have brought forward all of our accounting ending balances from one accounting year into the next. There is nothing to finalize because they were already there from the end of the prior year, okay? So I just want to explain that. Folks ask that question. Well, why? I didn't finalize my beginning balances. You're right, you didn't. Church Windows basically just says these balances are not open and available to change or edit unless you start over with a brand new chart of accounts, okay? At which point then that might be unchecked, and it would then be checked when somebody did decide to finalize them. Also, and we're going to talk about closing years here in a little bit, so I don't want to get onto questions about that yet until we get to that section, okay? Only informational on this page. I cannot do anything here. I can't check closed. I can't check or uncheck beginning balances finalized. This just provides information about our accounting years and financial years, okay? Not much to talk about there. However, since we did, now when we go back up to special functions and manage years, we've got update beginning balances. This is really vitally important, okay? I've opened 24. Going back in, if I change back into 2024, I need to go up and choose manage special functions, manage years, and update my new year beginning balances, okay? This is probably the most important step of the end of year or opening year procedure or function, okay? If I choose update beginning balances now, it's going to bring forward my balance sheet totals that it sees as of the end of 2023 based on December 6th, okay? Which right now would be the totals through 12/31. So I'm going to do that. And so it says, are you sure you want to update update balances for December 24 through January from 23? Click yes. Always verify this, folks, that it's updating to the year you're wanting from the year you want. We're going to click yes. So what it says now they're updated successfully. So I now click OK. So if I were to go in and run my balance sheet, say through December 31st of 2023, and compare that to my beginning balance column for 2024, those two columns will show the same balance, okay? I'm not going to be able to state this enough on this webinar event. You may update the beginning balances for the next accounting year as many times as you need or want. There is no restriction on how often you can update or how many times you can update the new year beginning balances. If you're unsure, or if you don't know how to check the balance sheet, just do it. Go into the new year, go to Special Functions, Manage Years, Update. It is simply going to verify that whatever the December 31st balances were are brought forward into the beginning balance column for 24 correctly. Okay? If they weren't, if nothing changed, then it's not going to suddenly manufacture totals and put them on there. So if you're unsure, go ahead and update the beginning balances. Cannot stress this enough. It is the most common reason why a user will reconcile for their asset accounts for the final month of the previous year and then suddenly not reconcile their assets for the first month of the new year. I deal with that all the time. Years I've been doing this. If you're not reconciling January's bank reconciliation statement with the bank reconciliation to zero, try updating your beginning balances. That may just fix the problem. It does it 80% of the time for me, when even without checking the balance sheet totals. Okay, it's so common that you can update them every day if you want. It's your choice. You can update them once a week, but just make sure you do it one final time when you're done with the prior year once and for all. Okay. Special Functions, Manage Years. Recopy chart of accounts. If I want to recopy my chart of accounts from the prior year, like I've opened it now, and then I go and make changes in 23, and I want to bring forward those changes, I would come into 24, and I do choose Recopy chart of accounts, and it says delete January through December 24 and recopy on accounting year January of 23. So if I do that, it's just going to delete the current 24 chart of accounts and replace it with the new image of the chart of accounts from 23. This only is an option up until when I post my first transaction in 24. As soon as I post a transaction or entry in 24, I only have the update account details, and that's it. Delete and recopy from the previous year no longer is available. We're all about the audit trail, folks. So there's a point at which this recopy chart of accounts is no longer available to you. But in the meantime, until you post, it may be could be an option that might be helpful for you. Okay. Okay. Updating account details. Like if I go back into 23, right? So if I go back here under change and I go back to 23 and I go back up to Special Functions, Manage Years, and Recopy, notice delete is not available. I've got transactions in 23. I cannot recopy. I can update account details, vendor information, account names, account numbers, that sort of thing, but I cannot recopy the entire chart of accounts from 22 into 23. Okay? Just to provide an example of where that line is drawn, okay, for you. All right. Let me make sure I didn't miss something. Yeah, once the transaction is posted, it's not open. Okay. Closing an accounting year. I know that we had some folks that had some questions about that. Closing an accounting year is optional only. Okay. This hard closes a year. This is the only hard close we have in the software. We don't have a hard close for the month. We have an annual hard close, and it is not required by the software. Okay. This function is simply optional. Okay. Most of our users won't close an accounting year, folks. You don't have to. The most common reason why I see that folks will or users will close an accounting year is because the church has finalized the reports for the prior year or prior year. They said, okay, we're done with the prior year, and yet a user continues to go back in and make changes to the prior year, essentially making those reports invalid. So that's the most common reason why I see why a year is closed. If you're okay with, and you're disciplined enough to not go back and make changes after the church decides the year is closed, then there's no requirement to use this, okay? It is optional, all right? So that's all I really want to say about that. And it does say up here, this step is not required as part of the end of year in accounting. We do not recommend that you close an accounting year until after an audit of that year has been completed. So if you're your church is planning to have an audit of the church books, say for 2023, definitely do not use this function. Every year I speak with a couple of folks who go in and they close the year on January 10th, and then they call back, on the 20th and say, hey, I need to go back and make a change in the prior year. I don't have an option to open the closed year, folks. That is part of the audit trail in the software. When the year is closed, it is legitimately closed. There is no reopening, okay? So the closing of a year can be done at any time. June, December, it can be done 3 years down the road. If I want to go back down here now and go back and choose to close to 2013, I can do that. Okay, granted, that was 10 years ago if I want. So it says you will not be able to change or add accounts or change budgets or transactions. And you want to go yes, you have to check read and understand, and you click yes, and the year is closed. So now when I go back up to special functions and view accounting year information, 2013 now says is closed. Okay, so just be aware. There is no requirement to use this function, and if you do use it, don't do it too soon. It can be done anytime. I cannot reopen the accounting year for you. None of my techs can. Okay? Don't close the year unless you really need to or want to. If you're wanting to change to a non-calendar year or fiscal year, okay, you may do so. So converting to a non-calendar accounting year, it then says a backup should be made before you do this. That would be done under administration and backup data, of course. Backup. And it says you have exclusive access. It's just a warning. And it's locking the tables down. It's basically saying no one else can access accounting while this occurs. So it says, what is your new start date? So if I go, okay, I want this to be July. Notice it's not even allowing, it's only allowing me to do it in 23. If I want to do it in 24, I would have to go back up to special functions, manage years, change to 24. Now I can go in there and do my change, convert to non-calendar accounting year. Again, okay, the system will now switch to me for accounting year with transactions. So it won't let me do it with an accounting year of 24 that's open that has no transactions. It will only allow me to do it now. So if I want to do that, I can do it. But if I choose to do May of 23 or June or whatever year I'm wanting and I click OK, it's going to create a short year from January through May of 23, or January through April of 23, and then a new year for May through April. Okay, the software will only ever run a shortened year for the interim year. It will never create an accounting year that is more than 12 months long. So when you're converting to a fiscal profile, it creates a short year, then it goes to the 12-month year. And that's true when you're going back, if you're wanting to switch back to a calendar year from a fiscal year, it will create it to the closest December, and then it'll open up and go back to January through December again. So you'll always run a shortened year in between, okay? So there's an issues to consider before changing, and if you click on that, it'll open up a page on our website on that, and it'll talk to you about, managing years and what have you on that. And my techs and I are always happy to talk to you about it as well. Okay? You're just running a shortened year, essentially, in the interim. That's all. Okay? I'm not going to actually do that. We're running short on time here. I'm going to go a little long, folks. I'm so sorry. Like I said, it is a complex topic, and so we're going to run a little long. If you have to go, I understand. Just be aware the video will be later available that you can come back in and watch these last few minutes here later if you wish. Finally, down here, delete unused accounts. Folks, this is one of the most underutilized functions or features in the software, I think. Okay, here I am in 23. It will still allow me to go in under manage years, delete unused accounts. It'll still tell me, show me a list of accounts in 2023 that are eligible for deletion even on December 6th of the current year. It'll be anything. It defaults to last used. So notice here we've got 1/1 of 1900. The software doesn't even remember the last time these accounts were used, if ever. It shows you the type. You can click on any one of these column headers and change how the list is sorted. So if I click on type, notice now it's going throwing liabilities, then it goes to income, then expense, and then it eventually goes down to AR clients and then AP vendors. Okay. There are no funds in the list because all of them have income and expenses or balances. But if I were to delete funds, income and expenses, funds might pop into this list. But it's literally as simple as either you can do check all and delete them, or you can simply go down the list and check the ones you want to delete. And when you're done, simply click the delete selected accounts button, and it just goes through and in one fell swoop deletes those checked accounts. But there is no audit history in the past 2 years that you have to worry about with these accounts. No beginning balances, no transactions, and no prior system checks have been entered. Okay. So you can literally delete these accounts and there's no audit history you have to worry about in the past 24 months. Okay. If you delete an account from this list or from the chart of accounts you shouldn't have, just re-add it back to the chart of accounts. Don't overthink it. Okay. But this is something that I certainly, and probably many of my other techs, would probably recommend that you consider visiting every year. Deleting accounts in any accounting year does not delete those same accounts in any other accounting year. Okay, it's not a global setting. While you do make duplicate copies, like we copied forward an exact copy of our 23 chart of accounts into 24, they are technically separate charts of accounts. They are separated by the accounting year of January through December, even though they may be duplicate mirrors of one another, images. Okay, so don't be afraid that, don't be fearful that deleting the accounts is going to suddenly delete it from the past. It is simply not. If I were to check these now and delete them, it would only be deleting them from my 23 accounting year, no other year, including 24. Okay. Again, use this function. It will help keep your chart of accounts manageable every single year. All right. You may always add an account if it was deleted back to the chart of accounts if necessary. And again, having gone a few minutes long, folks, let's talk about deleting accounting years. This is something that we added a number of versions ago, right down here, delete accounting years. And if I click the down arrow, notice it shows me 12, 13, 14, and 15. I believe, if it's my memory serves correctly, that accounting requires we keep the 8 most recent accounting years, and 24 is in the list. Why? Because I don't have any transactions posted in it. So if I wanted to delete 24, now's the time to do that. I work with users who may have created 25 by mistake now, and I just simply come in here and I just delete that account that year from the list. But as soon as I post a transaction in 24, that will disappear from the list. Okay. So even though 12, 13, 14, 15 have entries and transactions, they are outside the 8-year window, and it will allow me to choose 12. And I can now go up and choose 13, and notice it's just adding them to the list. And if once I choose those, I can click delete years, and it says, make a backup before deleting. This is really true. And then it says delete accounting years 12 through 15. And if I click yes, it does take a second. There it is, 4 years deleted. Now when I go up to special functions, manage years, and view, those years are no longer here. And so if you're unsure if that's the case, you would be well advised to make a backup of the data, because once it's gone, the backup is the only way, folks, to retrieve the information from those accounting years, is if you were to restore a backup. Okay, so just an FYI on that. So yeah, use this though. Use these functions and features, folks. They will help. They will keep your chart of accounts manageable, and make sure to update your beginning balances, open the new year. These are all functions and features that help make your work life easier, and we hope this helps today. So that is where I am going to leave this topic for today.